Geez, Jilloween really took Mayor Aaron away from grocery shopping. There's nothing to eat. What the frick are you doing?
Well, since today's Rhea Ripley figure has attire inspired by the Crow movie, I figured I'd spend a few days also inspired by Eric Draven.
Okay, and how exactly have you lived your life the last few days as Eric Draven?
Well, let's see here. I've been perched up on a lot more furniture than I usually have been, just watching my scenery. I've also been listening to a lot of heavy metal music and some Papa Roach. And also, I've been spending a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, at Hot Topic. I mean, look, I even cut thumb holes in this shirt. I mean, I pretty much am a resident there.
Yeah, I can see that. So you're method acting now?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a good idea to get into character before I review these figures, especially ones as dark as this.
Okay, whatever. Can you just go grocery shopping? We have nothing to eat.
I guess I can emerge from this darkness and retrieve some groceries. That was good, huh? That's pretty dramatic, huh?
By the way, you look like Sting.
Oh, that is exactly what all the others said about my face paint. I'm not Sting. I'm Eric Draven. Okay, maybe his face paint might have been inspired by the movie, but either way, I'm Eric. I'm not Sting. But yes, I will get us some food.
Fascinating. Now go get groceries.
You look like Sting. You look like Sting. You know what? You look like Sting. You look like Sting. And this lady over here, she looks like Sting too. I look like Eric Draven. Now let me get some fruit. Okay, let's start off by talking about a few things I learned today. Number one, you cannot go into a Walmart and accuse people of looking like Sting because you'll get thrown out before you even get to buy groceries. And number two, face paint's really hard to come off. But you know what? Despite me looking just like Eric Draven, I'm not Sting, we're going to ignore the fact we are here to review Main Event Series 153, Rhea Ripley. This figure looks low-key awesome. It looks like it has a lot of detail for a main event figure, and it looks like they did an excellent job on her body sculpt. So we're going to take a closer look, do some comparisons, but let's get started taking a closer look at the packaging. Alright, so starting out with the packaging here, I really dig this new rebrand of the basic line into the main event series. I think it gives the figures their own identity, and it makes them seem not so simple because there are some pretty amazing main event women's figures that deserve some respect and some love, and this looks like one of them, y'all. This figure looks awesome. Now, the packaging itself. I love the shape, the design, the color scheme. I love the image of the stunning and mysterious and dark Rhea Ripley. We have her name and the series number there. Nice open bubble. And on the back, let's see, she is classified as a powerhouse. That sounds about right. We got her signature move as the Riptide. And then we have the rest of the line there. So yeah, we are going to just rip this open, take her out, and let's take a closer look at this figure. WWE Main Event Series 153, Rhea Ripley. This attire is from the 2023 Crown Jewel Premium Live event, which took place on November 4th in Saudi Arabia. On this night, Rhea would retain her Women's World Championship by coming out victorious in a fatal 5-way match. I am blown away with my first impressions of this figure, to be completely honest with you. Now, here's the thing. Mattel has made some really excellent women's main event figures, but the main event line, in general, you just can expect a lot less detail, a lot less intricacies, kind of a more basic style version than the Elites. And sometimes they just reuse parts, apply simple paint schemes. There's not a whole lot there. But this figure from head to toe actually has a lot of personality, a lot of character, a lot of unique sculpting, and really good part choices. So I'm actually really impressed here. I think this figure is a prime example of how awesome these women's main event figures can be when the effort's put into them. So yeah, I'm really impressed with my first impressions here. Now, with that being said, let's take a closer look at the figure itself, starting with the face sculpt, face scan, and hair sculpt. Alright, so this appears to be a brand new face sculpt and face scan of Rhea. Obviously, the hair is new too. Now, I'm wondering if this is a head or one of the heads that's going to be used on the upcoming Ultimate Edition Rhea. So this is kind of a sneak peek of one of the heads they might be using on that Ultimate Edition. But I think the sculpt and the scan is really, really good here. I think it does a great job of capturing Rhea's appearance. Now, I will say, just like a lot of women's figures, you want to make sure that scan is printed on correctly. I have another one. The scan's a little off. It looks a little wonky, but the scan appears to be printed on almost perfectly on this figure. And as you can see with the face shape in the scan, it does a great job of capturing Rhea's likeness. And on top of that, there's a lot of details here. I have to zoom in even farther. Her little nose piercings are actually sculpted. They're not just painted, so that really stands out. Now, obviously, she has that dark eye makeup around her eyes that looks pretty good. It's with the inkjet technology. The eye color actually really pops as well. Now, that's something that is definitely new. The ear gauges are sculpted on there. You can even see some piercings in her upper cartilage there. And then this hair sculpt is new. And this hair sculpt is the shorter black. We have half of it going over her head there, the other half brushed behind her ear. But it's a really good sculpt. It's a beautifully done sculpt. It looks good in that jet black. But yeah, I really dig this face sculpt, this face scan, and this hair sculpt. And just to show you real quick, I will do a comparison later. But since we're looking at faces, let me elevate this. So this is Rhea's most recent Elite popping in here. And as you can see, it's a completely different sculpt here. And then we have her most recent main event figure, the one that came with Dom, and this is a previous sculpt. But as you can see, 3 very different Rhea sculpts, and I actually really like today's. I think it looks excellent. I'm really excited for what that Ultimate Edition is going to look like. Now, that being said, let's move on down to the body sculpt and the attire. Look how jacked Mommy is, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. You know, that most recent Elite Series 114 Zoe Stark, my personal favorite figure of the year, does such a great job of capturing Zoe Stark's muscular physique. And Rhea Ripley hasn't had that lucky treatment many times in her figure history. That Elite Series 110 does a great job of capturing her muscular physique, but her main event figures in previous Elites are way undersized. And I'm happy to say that this main event figure is jacked. I think that's awesome. The arms are big. The midsection torso is nice and ripped, a little broader than usual. Looks really, really good. And the legs are very detailed and very sculpted. We'll get to that in a second here. They might be a little thin, but it's really hard to notice on this figure. So starting out with that upper body, this is obviously her Saudi Arabia attire, so we're not going to see a whole lot of skin shown. But we have this separate Mommy choker necklace here. It says Mommy there. The top is just all painted black, but it is applied pretty darn neat, and it looks good, especially because she has that muscular physique underneath. If they would have used an undersized torso or undersized arms, this figure could have been a disaster, but they did a great job with the muscular pieces here, and it looks really, really cool. Moving on down to the bottoms, yeah, this all appears to be a brand new sculpting for main event figures. So maybe this means we're going to get tons more Rheas in the future. Let's hope so. Let's cross our fingers. I've said that for a long time. They need to have certain women that are staples of the line, like Roman, like Cena, you know, like AJ was for years. And I think Rhea should be that woman. So hopefully we see this sculpt used multiple times. Okay, I want to see Rhea included in greatest hits, top picks, all of those. I want to see it. But either way, yeah, I'm really impressed with the sculpting here in the bottom half. So this belt is sculpted on with the buckle sculpted, the loop sculpted there and even painted purple. We have a nice silver metallic paint applied to the buckle. Also, these little rivets are sculpted on the belt all the way around. That's really good detail. And the pants themselves have a lot of little sculpted designs in them, much like Rhea's real pants. You can even see some chains sculpted on there. And the paint application is really cool. We have dom-dom on her right thigh. We also have some purple showing through this mesh pattern there. We have some purple also showing through some mesh on the left leg. Purple stripe on that left leg as well. And then we have these boots. So yeah, I'm a little blown away with this figure in general. I absolutely am happy that they gave her that muscular physique in the upper portion. Especially, it makes it forgivable that it is just all plain black. I mean, sometimes I'd like to see these Saudi outfits on these women's figures to have some metallic paint application or something to make it look leather or look more lifelike. But either way, I think this figure looks great. And it's really cool that we do have this unique lower half. So maybe we'll get more Rheas in the future. All right, so let's do a little comparison. On the left, we have the Championship Showdown Series 18 Rhea that came with the Dom, the most recent main event style Rhea figure. And on the right, we obviously have today's main event Series 153. And look at the improvement. Now, that Rhea on the left, compared to that Dom, was way undersized. It looked really bizarre, but that Dom was oversized, to be completely honest. But either way, that Rhea was way too dainty and frail looking, and as you can see here, it is. But this Rhea on the right is so much more accurate, looks much more strong and powerful, and really depicts Rhea, gosh, almost flawlessly in a main event style, in my opinion. Now, as you can see, not just the stature, the broader shoulders, but even her traps. Her traps are defined on this new figure. She's got a lot more muscle than this other one. I mean, let's do a little bicep test. Let's see what you got here. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. You could put this new Rhea behind the other one. You can still see her biceps. So I thought this main event figure was a cool idea. You know, I think street gear should be utilized more in the main event line, especially for the women. I think that's a cool idea. And I was happy to get this, but a little let down, a little disappointed with the undersized of it all. But yeah, this Rhea here, unbelievable. Now, what we will do is we will compare this Rhea to Elite Series 110, if I don't bump the camera here. And as we can see, Elite Series 110 is an amazing Elite. Now, the one thing I will say, it does not stand up very well. I have so many issues with her that I actually don't have her displayed on my shelf. Even though I love this figure, these previous Elite ankles are just, they can either be really tight to where they feel like they're going to break or really loose. And this Rhea doesn't stand up too well. I have another one I might open up because I got to display this Rhea. But this Elite is fantastic. And I think this main event figure, even though it might be a little too tall, Rhea, I believe, is only billed at 5'7". So this main event Rhea might be a little too tall in my opinion. But I'd rather have it be a little too tall than way too short. So as you can see, side by side, these are both really good depictions of Rhea. I think on the right we have the best Elite Rhea, and on the left we have the best main event Rhea. Now, I am going to do a little comparison because I'm curious about something. Now, I've said this before on the channel. I honestly think that Mattel and Jazzwares have no scaling to their figures. What I mean by that is, by no means do they use an actual scale to figure out a superstar's real life height and translate it to an action figure's height. It's just, there's too many signs that point to them just not using a scale. I think when figures actually look like they're accurate next to each other is pure coincidence, in my opinion. I think that's something they need to go back on the drawing board with. I think they really need to figure out a way to scale it down and make them accurate, but I digress here. I just wanted to see how this main event series 139 Liv Morgan on the right looked next to the Rhea, because Liv's attire is Saudi inspired attire, and these two figures are ones that would look good together. Now obviously they're not exactly meant to go together, but I really do like the action figures I have in my collection of the women that are in their Saudi gear. I think it's very strong. It's a powerful statement to have them on display. And I was just curious how these two were next to each other. Now, Liv is billed at 5'3", Rhea 5'7". These look good next to each other. As I mentioned, Mattel, I honestly don't think they pay any attention to scale, but I am curious in instances like this where I might display the figures next to each other to see how they look next to each other, and these two look really good next to each other. I'm actually pretty impressed here. Alright, so before we cover articulation, I just want to show some of her hand tattoos that I did not cover earlier. We have on her right hand this really intricate tattoo kind of by her thumb. Really, really cool. And on her left hand, we have this tattoo up on the back side of her hand and also on her thumb. So yeah, they put some tattoo detail on the hands. That's a nice little touch. Now, as far as articulation goes, the head has really good articulation, mostly because the hair sculpt is not inhibiting head movement, so we can move in all different directions here. Shoulders on a ball joint can move in all different directions. Elbow can flex about 90 degrees. That's about it. The wrist can rotate around. It can also flex, extend, and yes, these hands are interchangeable, which is awesome. The waist can swivel, the thighs on a ball joint can move in all different directions. The knees can bend about 90 degrees, but I'm just going to throw a disclaimer and say that the main event women's figures are very fragile at this joint. I would suggest heating it up with a hairdryer, with boiling water, something if you're going to permanently bend it, because I've had this joint snap a few times. So I'm not going to force it here, but yes, the knee can bend back about 90 degrees. Then we have this boot swivel. All right, so it looks like I'm wearing eyeliner, but I'm not. Makeup is hard to get up, even Eric Draven makeup, okay? I'm not wearing eyeliner, okay? But if I was, it's probably due to my time at Hot Topic. Anyway, now remember, my main event scoring scale is separate from my elite scoring scale, my AEW scoring scale. This is going to be scored amongst other main event women's figures. Now, that being said, I give WWE Main Event Series 153 Rhea Ripley an overall score of a 9.6 out of 10. This is a prime example of how awesome these women's main event figures can be when the details put into them. The only reason it's not a perfect 10 is I wish they would have gone with a metallic or a shiny black paint application for the top to make it look more leathery, pleathery, whatever the actual material was in real life. I think that's something they definitely could have done. And also, it would have been cool if they threw in her little vest that she wore with the spikes on the shoulders. I think those two things, if they would have been included, this would be a perfect main event figure. But for what it is, for how it stands, this is not only an amazing main event Rhea Ripley figure, it's one of her best figures to date. And honestly, if you're a fan of Rhea Ripley or women's wrestling in general, I would absolutely go and pick this figure up. If you go to ringsidecollectibles.com, use coupon code LJV at checkout to save 10%. But this figure is definitely worth it. Now, if you're just going to have one Rhea Ripley in your collection, I would actually wait for the Ultimate Edition that's coming with the ring. That Rhea might be the most amazing women's wrestling figure ever. So we'll see when it comes out. But honestly, I think this is cool. And I think it's really cool when they make these women's figures in the attires that they wore in Saudi Arabia, you know, a place where women aren't exactly treated equally. There's something powerful about displaying women's figures that are wearing these attires and how they have their own style and uniqueness to the attires. I just think that's a strong statement there. So with that being said, this Rhea is freaking awesome. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. To get a first look at all future women's wrestling figure reviews, make sure to hit subscribe and become an official resident of LJV today. Now stay tuned, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of women's wrestling figure reviews coming very soon. I'm hoping that timeless Toni Storm Ringside Collectibles exclusive figure is coming out soon, and I also have Grapplers and Gimmicks, Queen Sherry, and Sensational Sherry to review. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all watching, and have a great night, y'all.